I appreciate you on Rants of Izzo here on Spreely Media, live in 35 seconds. If you are watching on social media or Spreely TV or rantsofizzo.com with the Freedom Hub, make sure you share like crazy.
Sit down, shut up, and pay attention.
Damn!
This is the Rants of Izzo Show with your host, Dominick Izzo. From porn to politics. We touch every third rail we can find. You might want to put your headphones on so your mom can't hear this. It's been called the most entertaining 60 minutes on the internet, and it starts now. Let's do this.
All right, Rants of Izzo Show here on Spreely Media. It is Tuesday, I think. January 9th. Oh, yeah. First things first. Happy birthday to my youngest sister out there, Rosemary, who turns 41 today. 41. She's officially an old broad. Happy birthday to you. All right, I got, I'm not even going to, I had it in my head the right way. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. Ilan, please introduce your last name for me so I don't fuck it up.
Moalem.
Who was on with me for some martial arts content a while ago, and I asked him to come on today to talk about what is just non-stop in our social media feeds, and I want some clarity and education on this whole Jew hatred. I'm not going to lie. I was telling somebody today, I didn't sleep last night because I was on Twitter all fucking night again, trying to get the last word with just whatever fake accounts are out there. I literally got off the phone about 20 minutes before we went live with Pastor James McDonald, who's, he's a friend of mine out here from the Chicago area. And I'm like, I don't get this insane hatred for Jews. I have no dog in this fight when it comes down to Palestine or Israel. I'm too worried about what's happening in the Chicago area. I'm not going to be somebody who is, you got to free Palestine or Jews or what. I just don't care. It doesn't affect my life. But what I can't stand is this Christian nationalist movement, which is, I've never seen more hate in my life openly towards the Jewish community. So I want to get this 360-degree view from what, because you've been piping up lately. You've been commenting on my stuff, and you said, hey, let's talk about this. So I'm sorry it's been a couple weeks to finally get you on. But let's just have a conversation about this. What the fuck is going on?
I think there's a multifaceted issue here. And it's not just coming from the right, it comes heavily from the left as well. There's an issue with identity politics that's been going on for years on the left to push Jews as privileged, as oppressors, and everything on the left is this oppressor-oppressed narrative. And vice versa, on the far right, you do see a form of identity politics, which kind of mirrors that, where Jews are at the top of the hierarchy, controlling all the people underneath. It's all based in conspiracy theories. The Jews have been the scapegoat of conspiracy theories from the beginning of time. So the more society does get more unhinged because of legitimate reasons, there are things that are going on in society that would get you to question reality or question the, establishment or question the media. The more those things happen, the more Jews will end up suffering for that, because they've historically been the root. You look at the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a completely made up book written by Russians to vilify Jews, but people still believe in that stuff. In other words, Jews are the butt of that.
Can we start there for a second? What is the first term I started seeing like crazy on Twitter was everybody accusing somebody else of being a Zionist, right? Mm-hmm. What is that?
So a Zionist is just someone that believes, this is the great irony here, a Zionist is someone who believes that Jews deserve or have a right to a homeland in what they believe to be ancient Israel. Right. So now, look, I don't make any claim to Israel based on historical presence in the land. I make it based on the very fact that Israel is legally partitioned land from the UN. The Palestinians never historically had a state. It's the first time they were offered a state was in the 1930s, then 1948. They denied it. They've continued to deny their opportunity to have their own sovereignty and own state until today because they didn't want to live side by side with Israel. And so that's all a Zionist means. There's no great conspiracy here again with what Zionist means. If you believe Israel fundamentally has a right to exist, then you are a Zionist. But they've turned it into something, again, they've perverted it. It's like anything. It's like any word that gets appropriated. There's so many misconceptions about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but the great tragedy here is, why are Jews worldwide being attacked after the October 7th massacre? It didn't even take 24 hours for Jews in France to be attacked. That's what blew me. You're telling me that's not about anti-Semitism? That's about Israel? No, you're attacking Jews in the United States a day after over 1,000 Jews were massacred in Israel.
Yeah, that's what's blowing me away is it's like a trick question. Somebody sits there and says, hey, do you support Jews having the right to live in Israel? Or what? And I would go, yeah. Oh, you're a Zionist then. Well, do you want to explain the rest of it to me, please? Nobody does that at all. So that's why I have no dog in this fight, and I don't pick a side enough because I don't have enough information to make a decision, right? We come from a land where you get liberals who love to nonstop talk about, well, you guys are living on stolen land that you took from the American Indians, but now you want to focus that hate on Israel and Palestine as well too. So we don't function. Whatever. I was talking to somebody on the DMs today. COVID lockdowns created people who need conflict. They need it. They're not happy unless they're fighting over something. I want to keep going on this.
Let me ask you a question. Here's a great. There's so many things we can go over here, but number one, 400,000 dead in Yemen. Did the news talk about it? How many hundreds of thousands dead in Syria? Did you see worldwide protests till today? And by the way, Palestinians put in concentration camps. Over 5,000 starved and killed in Syria. We had on Christmas Eve radical Islamists kill Christians in Nigeria, Sudan, Congo. There's these major atrocities that take the death toll that we've seen in Palestine-Israel conflict since 1948 and are 100 times worse, and yet no one will talk about it. No one will criticize it. No one will march in the streets. But a day after over 1,000 Jews are massacred, Jews worldwide are attacked, and they're told that by retaliating, they're committing genocide. I mean, and by the way, if you want any objective reasoning to determine what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, if Hamas had their way, there would be actual genocide. There would be 7 million dead people in Israel. If Israel has its way, which it is having right now, we do not see 2 million dead Palestinians. We just don't see it. And they've had the opportunity to do that for 70 years, and they haven't done it. So, yeah, look, I can go into the details. Israel did not steal the land, but I know that like you said, you have no dog in the fight. And the truth is that's the most rational position to take in all of this, because so many people are spreading misinformation. And why is this the thing that people are so hyper fixated and obsessed with?
That's where I'm going with this is I don't understand it. Where I had two associates, one who was on the same platform as I am. I'll say his name again, Stu Peters, who has over 500,000 followers on Twitter. He's got his own network on Rumble. He went from a rapper to bounty hunter to failed radio to now a right-wing extremist. His non-stop tweets about the Jews is insane. I don't know if you've seen this new, let's take me, right? The typical middle American who's ignorant, who's trying to focus on his own shit. And then all of a sudden you get the spreading of the Jewish tunnels that were found in a New York synagogue, right? And my first thought was, I'm not getting sucked into this bullshit again, because I was the guy who stayed up for hours on ends when Trump had the Comfort and the Mercy, those two big ships, go on each coast, and all of us who were part of the QAnon conspiracy said, that's because the John Podesta children who live under the streets in New York, right? All those kids who are chimera hybrids are finally going to be, look at all that's not a hospital set up. It's a nursery for kids. We believe that shit for fucking months. Nothing happened. And I'm seeing it again, right? Oh, Jews under the tunnels. Oh my God, look at these mattresses that are coming up stained. That means they've been trafficking kids down there. When 90% of you fuckers, if you took a black light to your mattresses with the sheets off, you'd see your own shit stains. What is this insanity And it's more so, it seems more so from conservatives who value themselves as Christians now, attacking every fucking Jew out there, saying Jews are pedophiles. Our country is being, it went from, like you said, a conflict 6,000 miles away to now Jews run the world, Jews run the American government, Jews are all pedophiles, and they're trying to destroy America. How the fuck was that connection made, and by conservatives of all people?
Well, it's always been there. It's always been there, seeping under the surface. It's not new. It's just that, you couldn't get away with being so blatant about it. Again, you could get away with it if you were Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib, but the right has always historically been attacked heavily by the left anytime they spoke up. So now they have a point of agreement. You know what I mean? You have the far right and you have the point of agreement from the left coming, and it's converging into, let's just blame the Jews for anything. It's like a joke. It's, what's the one thing that can unite, BLM and white nationalists? Hatred for the Jews.
Wow. Oh, God.
As for conspiracy theories, the great irony is that the standard of proof to believe the conspiracy is always so much less than the standard of proof people apply to believe the mainstream story. In other words, if you're a conspiracy theorist, that's fine. Hold things to an equal standard. If you want to believe the conspiracy, then scrutinize it the way you scrutinize the truth. And that's where you'll find what's actually true and what's not true. But what happens is they go, oh, there's some things that don't make sense over here, so let me believe this great story that someone else told me without actually having to look into it in any real deep sense that will analyze it and scrutinize it. And then when people criticize that, they go, oh, well, those sources can't be trusted. In other words, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's where my mind went, right? Because the cop in me needs discernment, because I still need evidence and facts before I can sit there and make a decision. Now, I still do. I do knee-jerk reaction shit, and I make sure that I say it's just my opinion. But first place my mind went was, man, didn't New York have one of the most egregious lockdowns during COVID? And what's the possibility that the Jews were so dedicated to worship that they dug tunnels to avoid cops from trying to prevent them to go into synagogues? And immediately I was met with, those tunnels were dug 6 months ago. And I went, well, just because it was on the internet, that's true. So it blows me away how anytime you put up a possible rational argument against, it's automatically child sex trafficking, apparently. Automatically, because the Talmud is so evil. That's the case, and you go to defend people, the amount of people who've been calling me a Jew is insane. Just because I'm rationally thinking.
They can't rationally argue anything. And again, look, the truth is here, even if you found a group of Jews who were doing, 50 Jews in New York who were doing something terrible, it seems like Jews and certain other groups are the only ones that are okay to mass generalize. In other words, Epstein, you have Epstein, who's a major creeper, right? Who's a child sex trafficker. Fine, you have Epstein. Oh, but he was a Jew, therefore all Jews are somehow responsible. But if you go and you tell any Muslim in the world, hey, look, there are we're talking about mass atrocities committed in the name of Islam for many centuries now that are not stopping. That there, again, I just mentioned Yemen, Sudan, Congo, Syria. I can name numerous countries where there are mass human rights violations. They would say, why is any individual Muslim or why is Islam responsible for this? These are extremists.
100% fucking percent. 100% fucking percent. And I posed that in these in the threads of these commenters online. I'm going, wait a second. So apparently, because the Talmud, and this is my viewpoint, I'm a Christ follower. I refuse to be associated with Christians because I think they're so fucking hypocritical. It's insane. But my faith is so rooted that I don't care if the Talmud, and I'm paraphrasing because these people are putting up online that the Talmud teaches that Jesus is in hell boiling in semen and excrement.
It does not.
Right.
It does not teach that, though. These are made up. These are made up things that are very easy to research. First of all, in Judaism, there is no hell. There's one mention of something called Gehinnom, which is not really hell. We don't have that concept in Judaism. And so Jews don't, the position of Jews on Jesus is that they don't think anything about Jesus. That's it. For Jews, Jesus is not relevant to the religion. They don't hate Jesus. They don't love Jesus. It's just there is God and there is Jews, and that's it. And they, you know what I mean? There's not even necessarily a streamlined concept in Judaism of life after death. It is a more philosophical based religion. So that's the great irony here when people try and make these claims. Is 99%
who's the audience?
Of them are made up.
Who's the audience is a bunch of people who spent God knows how many years on lockdown who will believe anything you told them. So then my argument is, if your faith is so strong, it doesn't matter what someone writes about your God. You should be like, okay, that's great. I don't believe that.
Well, the great sadness here is Jesus was a Jew, and now they're trying to rephrase it that he was a Palestinian. Yep. It's the most insane thing ever. But Jesus was a Jew. When you hate Jews, you're hating. And by the way, so religion is super fascinating to me. I think you look at the teachings of Jesus, I think they're right. That makes sense. I think everything that if you're a Christian and you follow the teachings of Jesus, you are going to live a proper life. You will live a life that is correct. And I actually think the cure for a lot of problems in society lay inside the teachings of Christianity. And so the great irony here is that people are in direct contradiction to the teachings of Christianity when they start attacking Jews. It's just such an interesting dynamic. You can't really be a Christian and then go out and have hate in your heart and then go out and attack the people who your God chose to come down to earth as. He chose to be a Jew. He is God. He chose to come here. And who did he choose to be? Chose to be a Jew. So again, it's totally absurd.
That's why I wonder, like I said, I don't understand this targeting. I continued with, why is it? And I'll look at Stu again. I'll keep singling him out. You have Stu comes from Minnesota. Minnesota is saturated with Muslims who believe in Islam, who practice Islam. And I said, I don't understand why, if you're so hell-bent on attacking a religion that vilifies your Christianity, I'm sure you can look at Islam. Again, I'm not that very well versed in Islam at all, but
here, Coptic Christians wiped out in Egypt, Assyrian Christians wiped out in Iraq, in Sudan, in Nigeria over Christmas. There were Christians being targeted and killed. The world does not talk about the targeting of Christians in Islamic states. It ignores it.
That's my thing is they're not afraid. They're not brave enough to wind up going after the Muslims. And if just child sex trafficking is such a big deal, where the fuck have these people been talking about the Roman Catholic Church and priests for the last several decades? The single biggest pedophile organization in the world. But you won't hear them criticize them. Why Jews? Why is it Jews? I just don't get it.
Again, because people need a scapegoat. So there's a few things happening in the world that are, in my opinion, forcing people to be in a fear state, a state where they don't feel like they have value. Even if you're religious, you will end up in a state of nihilism. The entire purpose of religion, of Christianity, Judeo-Christian beliefs, the great thing that they give you is they give you value in your humanity. You are important just by nature of existing. God made you, you are special. And there is some kind of objective truth, objective ethics in the universe that is in the stream of the universe that can't be denied. Meaning, hurting children is wrong. It doesn't matter if you believe it's wrong. It doesn't matter if I believe it's wrong. It is wrong. It's in the fabric of the universe. But when you do away with that, you end up with extreme moral relativism. It's why we see all these extreme behaviors in society nowadays. They have no objective truth anymore. They can believe anything, literally anything. And when you have extreme moral relativism, the people who will be most under attack are the ones who are the scapegoats, the ones who are perceived to be the problem or bring fear. You need someone to blame for why you don't matter, for why things are hard. And so Jews are a perfect example of, and it's not just the Jews, there's been genocides of countless people historically.
No, it's the Jews are taking this. I've never, in my years, I'm almost 50. And when I was a kid, I went to Catholic grammar school. You didn't call people Jew, or it was an insult, right? And it was usually towards money, right? If somebody was cheap, you're a Jew. Then it was slang. It was you couldn't say that. It was just as bad as the N-word, right? So you showed respect. I can't believe if anybody just types in the search bar Jew on Twitter, you will see the most vile, fucking outwardly people support Hitler. It blows my mind the amount of people Hitler was right. I don't get it.
That was posted 70,000 times on Google. I think there was just a study that came out, and that specific phrase. I mean, I've been told you should be put back in an oven at least 100 times in the past month. I mean, the things, and it's very robotic, the responses, and they tell me they're not anti-Semitic. But then they cite Hitler and talk about how Hitler was right or how Jews need to be put into ovens. In the same conversation as telling me they're not anti-Semitic. That's where they're at. And they'll tell me, oh, well, if you support Israel, you're a Nazi and you deserve to die automatically. And that Jews worldwide are responsible. And again, they don't even have an objective understanding of the situation in the Middle East at all anyway. Like I said, my family had to escape Iraq. They were Jews in Iraq. There was something called the Farhud. There has been extremism in the Middle East long before Israel was a state. In 1920s, the Mufti of Jerusalem was slaughtering Jews just for living there. Before Israel was a state, before any occupation, did he see the future and know that in 20, 25 years, Jews are going to come from Europe and start living there? No, he didn't. He just wanted to kill Jews in the region, just like they wanted to kill my family in Iraq. And over 1 million Jews in the Middle East had to flee their countries. You want to talk about ethnic cleansing? We never hear about that. We only hear these made up stories about how Israel's trying to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, while the population of Muslim Palestinians in the state of Israel has increased tremendously. They represent 20% of the population with full equal rights. So there's just such delusion. People don't even know. They don't even know that Palestinians, 20% of Israel is Palestinians with Israeli citizenship, with equal rights. They are celebrities. They work in the Supreme Court. They are politicians. They are doctors. It's just such an upset, full voting rights, full property rights. So again, people don't know anything and they just form these crazy opinions based on TikTok and Instagram.
Again, it's blown me away. I used to think all the time, too, one of the biggest things we talk about in the United States is the racism issue and how we always go back to 400 years ago, slaves, X, Y, and Z. And although it didn't happen in the United States, I've always said, how come you just glance over 6 million Jews being just destroyed in World War II, which was not 400 years ago? It seems that the Jewish community is the target of more hate and glancing over, right? You can't empathize with the Jews, no matter who you are, because if you do, I don't know what you are at this point. But again, I've been called a Jew more than anything online lately. It is insane. What do you foresee happening? Because this is my viewpoint. This is an election tactic to further divide. Right. I think that it's just ironic that we're now going into this because mass shootings aren't working. Racism isn't working. I think this anti-Semitism is being brought up giant right before the 2024 election because I think it's a tactic to derail the election. Do you have any thoughts on why the timing of this is now?
Well, I think that the timing is not necessarily that suspect. There's been increasing problems with Israel for a while now. I think people look for any excuse, like I said, historically, to hate on the Jews. And I think it's just now acceptable. I mean, you have Claudine Gay, who finally stepped down, but I mean, you had 3 presidents of the top universities in America come out and they couldn't say, just openly, it's such an easy question to say, yes, calling for the genocide of the Jews would be very clearly against our standards and would be a despicable thing to say. That should not be a hard thing to say, but they couldn't.
That blows me away. It fucking blows me away. They just sat there. How do you not say that was just wrong? Well, oh God.
It's endemic of something much deeper in society. Like I said, you're having problems on both sides, and it's troubling that the right's been pushed a lot in recent years. The right has been, and Christians have been pushed a lot into a corner. And if you really research this, it's very troubling. I mean, the FBI was actively going after pro-lifers, churches, and going into their families' homes with SWAT. I mean, these are just absurd things. So there's a lot of distrust for the government right now. There's a lot of, and COVID spurred a lot of distrust for the government. There's a lot of things that have just happened, which have caused a decay and polarization in society, extremism. And when you have extremism, you will have people who are at the butt of extremism and have to pay the price for it. And I think that, if you see it as the Jews today, it's not going to stay the Jews for very long. Once the Jews are no longer the problem and they get rid of the Jews, there'll be someone else to attack. And again, with extremism, we look at, again, the Middle East. If you think that the problem in the Middle East is Jewish extremism and that this is not a worldwide fundamentalist issue that has stemmed from Wahhabi, Salafi, Sunni extremism or other things that have arose in the area, you're looking at millions dead between Sunnis and Shias alone. Forget the Jews. Millions dead. No one talks about it. There is an extremism that is coming to our door. Our borders are left open. There are people who do not like the way we live our lives. They do not agree with the Western world, and they want to come and destroy it. I know that's a hard thing for people to accept, but it's a reality. And so again, you can look at the Jews all day. You can hate the Jews all day. The Jews aren't the ones going up and taking down American flags on holidays and ripping them down and replacing it with their flag. It's just, anyway.
I can't fathom this shit.
Down neighborhoods.
I just blows me away how you've got like the LGBTQ that supports Palestine when I'm a little bit ignorant, but correct me if I'm wrong, they don't seem too tolerant on the homosexual lifestyle. But you'll get that. The splitting of factions for divide, right? So you got conservatives, so many who are like, yay, Trump, but oh my God, Trump is my idol and all this stuff. And I voted for him, but I'm tired of his bullshit. Didn't Trump, explain if you know, because I don't, but didn't Trump have something to do with Israel in his term, supporting, I guess, their position is with their state? Am I anywhere near close on that?
Well, Trump was pro-Israel. What I will say that Trump did with Kushner, which was unbelievable, is the Abraham Accords. If you want to see a pathway to peace in the Middle East, the Abraham Accords was what would work. Here's the real problem with the secular world and these people on the right who are attacking Israel. They're not actually attacking Israel because of any rational criticism. When you fundamentally ask them, does Israel have a right to exist? Do you condemn Hamas? Over 90% of them cannot answer. It should be, again, we're talking about genocide of Jews. It should be just as easy to answer. Yes, I believe Israel has a right to exist as a state. I want to see Palestinians have self-determination and a state too. Why isn't it happening? Let's look at that. And Hamas is obviously a terrorist organization that we have to get rid of. That should
How
not
is
be
that difficult?
a hard, rational position, whether you're pro-Palestinian, pro-Israel. You can be pro-Palestinian, you should be, and still be anti-Hamas. You should be pro-Palestinian, believing that they deserve self-determination, and still be pro-Israel, believing it's okay for Jews to have self-determination as well. There are countless Muslim states. There is no Jewish state, and we see, except for Israel, and we see in the world today how Jews are treated given the opportunity. So if anything, this proved more than ever that Jews need Israel as a state because they're not safe anywhere else long-term. I don't know where the world's going. So, again, there's just great irony here in every single thing that goes on and great hypocrisy. So Trump, what he did, which was very good, is he got numerous Arab states to agree to make peace with Israel. And it was the attack on October 7th was kind of the breaking point because Saudi Arabia was going to make peace with Israel, which would have been very bad for Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas. It would have disempowered them tremendously. And so this attack was pushed by Iran, in my belief, to help stop that from happening as a last ditch effort to stop Israel from becoming more accepted by Arab nations. Because this is the most interesting thing in the world. No one was talking about Palestinians. No one was talking about Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. They massacred and raped and burned alive 1,200, 1,400 people. They took hostages. They did the most brutal attack you can do. And what happened? They didn't get condemned for it by most of the world. People within 24 hours were celebrating. People within 24 hours were donating money, and people within 24 hours were attacking Jews worldwide. Mm-hmm. We have taught a terrorist organization and shown all the people who want to attack Jews that the way to get sympathy and the way to get money and the way to succeed is to literally be as brutal as possible and do it because people will still support you no matter what.
Dude, I want who is ever running Hamas's marketing department to work for me because literally you're 100% correct. It blew me away saying that Palestine and Hamas, it's like here, right? You've got the south of the United States and then the KKK, right? You got the KKK that comes from within the southern states, and I'm sure it's everywhere else, but it doesn't mean that they are the southern states. So Hamas is not Palestine, and correct me anywhere that I'm wrong. So I could support the people of Palestine and condemn Hamas. Can I not do that?
You should be able to want self-determination and peace and a better life for Palestinians and very much want Hamas gone. The two are actually mutually exclusive. You will not see a better life for Palestinians under Hamas. They have taken billions. They've taken every penny and not used it to build any infrastructure, but to build rockets to attack Israel. They have used their water pipes. The water pipes that were given to them were repurposed into rockets, and they bragged about it. They shot a video of it. Go on Google and type in Hamas repurposes water pipes for rockets. This is heavily investigated. They brag about it because they know there can be no consequence for them. They go on memory.tv and you will see. Did you know that Yahya Sinwar was literally treated for brain cancer for free? The mastermind behind the October 7th attack, one of the main people for Hamas, was treated for a brain tumor by Israel for free. They saved his life. It's just absurd. When Hamas took over when they were democratically elected in 2005, what they did was start a civil war. They started shooting Fatah and killing them, the opposing government. But you know what? They decided if we kill off all of them, people won't remember. So let's shoot them in the elbows and the knees so that they lose their limbs. And there'll be a bunch of crippled people, handicapped people walking around Gaza. So no one will ever uprise against us. You know what Israel did? It took those Fatah people, it saved them, and it gave them fake limbs and asylum. It takes homosexuals from across the Middle East and gives them asylum. But all these people who are so pro-LGBT, like you said, all these human rights, will go and attack the one country that's standing up for those rights. Again, it's impossible. I've come to the conclusion. Everyone's screaming ceasefire, 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 ceasefire. We want Israel to ceasefire. You never heard them say, well, Hamas should release the hostages and step down. And when Egypt came in and said, hey, here's an option for a ceasefire, let us take over. They told Hamas, step down, we'll take control. You will have a permanent ceasefire with Israel. Israel said, yes, if Egypt steps in and takes control of the region, we will have a permanent ceasefire. You know what Hamas said? No way in hell. And then Israel said, fine, release 40 hostages. We'll give you a ceasefire. You know what Hamas said? No way in hell. But all those ceasefire people who've been screaming it since October 7th, have been screaming ceasefire, refused to come out and protest against Hamas, who actively denied two very, very fair ceasefire agreements. They don't care. They don't want a ceasefire. They want Israel to stop attacking and for Hamas to keep attacking. They want Israel to release 5,000 people who have stabbed Jews, who have shot Molotov cocktails, who have bombed people. They want Israel to release those people, but they don't want the 200 innocent civilians being held by Hamas to be released. They won't call for that. So there's no rational dialogue in all of this.
They're insane. That's you're talking about stuff that I can't comprehend. And the human psychology is what's really blowing me away. How do you have gays, lesbians, transgender people supporting Palestine, supporting Hamas inadvertently, and then the same people who voted for Trump, who was pro-Israel, are supporting Palestine and condemning Israel, and they're condemning homosexual lifestyles. So it would be like if you're pro-gay and I'm pro-heterosexual, Christian, whatever, and we're standing side by side supporting the same side that hates both of us. Yeah. I have no fucking clue how this happens.
What's interesting about the right, the extremists on the right who hate the Jews right now, is the great hypocrisy in their positions. They're like, Jews control the education system. But then you have the three top universities, and this is not limited to just them. These are the ones who came out publicly, being unable to say that genocide against Jews is against their policies. So which is it? Jews are controlling the universities, but actively want genocide for Jews, and they want all this extremist behavior against Jews to be perpetuated? And, we control the media, but the news has actively been caught lying about Israel numerous times. Dating back to the Jenin massacre, they were making up that 5,000 dead Palestinians in the Jenin massacre turned out to be 47 of which were armed. Israel actually sent in soldiers and lost numerous soldiers to reduce the death toll. The journalists were lying, saying there's bodies piling up. They had to do a mass retraction on virtually every story. CNN came out, said there's Jew-only streets in Israel. Till today, people believe that. That is a grand lie. There were, during a period of high attacks on Israel, Israeli citizenship-only streets. But again, 20% of Israel is Muslim Palestinian. They marched on those streets, and the second that it calmed down, they opened those streets up to everyone again. But the notion that there are streets based on citizenship is not the same as saying there are streets based on religion. It is a completely different argument, but they don't care.
No, I learned that firsthand with my buddy who was in the DEA. He was stationed in Greece for a while. And when Greece was having those mass riots and protests and whatnot, he goes, don't believe what the news is telling you. He said the news is just showing up with cameras. It's one block on a street, and they're just changing the angle of where they shoot all the time to make it look like shit. So when I learned about that, I'm like, well, I guess the media lies to us, and that was years ago. Have you
seen Jake Shields' Twitter account? Jake Shields is a maniac. He's a lunatic, but he's a perfect example of how people will hide their anti-Semitism behind anti-Zionism. They will just obsess.
Oh, yes. I saw his stuff for last night for the first time. He's an MMA fighter, 600,000 people, and he was one of the people that I commented on one of his things last night. I got to go to, let's see, my replies. Where's it? Because I could not fucking sleep because it blew me away with this shit.
No, he's a lunatic. Yeah. He's a rampant anti-Semite. You look at the nationalist movement in the United States that has been very quiet. they're very vocal right now because of people like Jake Shields and because they're getting away with it because no liberal is attacking them for hating Jews. So they're very happy to do it. The liberals are happy to see it. And or leftists, I don't want to say liberals, it's leftists.
Yeah, it is
become very mainstream on the left too. And so you're really seeing it out in the open, which in many ways is a good thing.
Yeah, I stumbled across his stuff last night, and I cannot find what I replied to, but I was looking at this going, I don't understand why you guys are spreading this shit. And now where's he based out of? Is he based out of the United States?
Yeah, he's in the United States. I invited him for a debate. He said he would consider it.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I don't hate Jews. I'm at my Jewish friend's house right now."
Oh no, yeah. His thing was
his reply to me.
Yeah, his thing was is your views of Muslims or excuse me, of Palestine or Israel changed during all this, and I thought, okay, here's a guy who's pretty fair. So I commented, no, I'm too worried about what's happening in my own backyard, blah blah. Then I started scrolling his stuff, and I'm like, this guy fucking hates Jews.
Yeah,
he hates
really
Jews.
Hates Jews. I mean, he's just done blatantly anti-Semitic stuff. Said anti-Semitic.
That's
stuff.
my point. Is you look at these people like him, who's got 600,000 people following him. Stu Peters, 600,000 people following him, and they are without hesitation saying inflammatory things, and the way they word it is so careful to where if John Doe follows one of these guys, goes out, beats the shit out of a Jewish guy in the street because he sees the curls and the hat and all this, and he's a Stu Peters follower, the guy's going to go, well, I'm not held accountable for what I said just because one of my followers did X, Y, and Z. I've never seen pieces of shit bigger than these influencers online who will say what they want, condemn Jews, and do not understand that they've got fanatics following them who 100% are going to act in violence on their behalf. They just don't see it. Or maybe they do. It's what they want.
Yeah, and he's not responsible for it. Look, Jake Shields doesn't care. I can promise you that much. He doesn't care if people go attack Jews. My belief is that he's literally every day obsessively posting 500 times a day against Jews and Israel, claiming it's not about the Jews, it's against Israel, but the Zionist media controls the world, and the Zionist this and the Zionist that. Look, just interchange Zionist for Jew. That's pretty much what he's talking about. And, he's trying to incite some degree of hatred. I don't know if, look, I'm very much pro freedom of speech. I believe he has the right to do it. I like it being out in the open. I like knowing who Jake Shields is. I like seeing his followers. If I ever have to hire somebody, I know not to hire Jake Shields or any of his followers. I mean, it's a very good thing when the world sees it, and it's healthy for Jews because Jews get a little bit delusional. Jews have been supporting when Elon Musk came out and he said, I agree. I don't know if you saw that post where this guy said, sorry, I don't feel bad for the Jews now after supporting the very organizations that have been bringing in the people who hate them so much and standing up for the people who hate them so much. During BLM, you had Linda Sarsour up on the podium talking about Jews, Israel. You know what I mean? Why would I march with that organization, even if I believe in BLM? Sorry,
now refresh everybody's memory.
Website
refresh everybody's memory. Refresh everybody's memory on who she is.
Linda Sarsour literally has been associated with. I mean, she's just been completely. No one wants to deal with her anymore because of her affiliations with extremists. But she's just an extremist Islamist who hates Jews, very much hates them, and she made comments that just became so blatantly clear that people started disassociating with her. But BLM itself is a movement that is heavily driven in Jew hatred, in the Palestine-Israel conflict. It has as one of their main things. What does that have to do with the United States? That's my great question here a lot of the time. What does BLM have to do with Palestine? Why is intersectionality a thing here? And again, so Jews are finally starting to wake up of, hey, we marched with you. We expected after, 1,200 of us were massacred that you would march with us. We're not seeing it. We're hurt. I'm like, they were telling you to your face. They were telling you to your face for over a decade that they don't like you. And you're surprised now that when people killed you, they're not marching with you, that they don't care. I mean, this was so obvious leading up to this point, and vice versa. Any Jew who believed that people like Jake Shields was on their side are delusional. So it's very good that Jews have woken up to who their friends are and who their enemies are and will support and boycott, vice versa, those people. And so I don't know. I mean, like, to me, I rather know who my enemy is than have them be quiet about it. I don't want to. If you don't want me in your restaurant, because I don't care what it is. It's because my mom's Iraqi or because I'm a Jew, whatever the reason. If someone said you're Iraqi, I don't want you in my restaurant. Good. I want to know that. Someone said you're a Jew, I don't want you in my restaurant. Fantastic. Now I know not to give you my money. I know not to support you. And I know not to let other people who are like me go there too. And so Jews were delusional for way too long, believing that they're just safe everywhere in the world and that there's not this great hatred toward us. There is. And people, the great irony here is whenever I bring this up to people who don't like Jews, they're like, oh, playing the victim card. You guys are always victim, always talking about the Holocaust. I'm like, I have not talked about the Holocaust. You're the one.
Not for nothing. The Holocaust was a pretty big fucking thing. Was a pretty big fucking thing. It up,
people are like, oh, there we go, victims again.
Right.
Oh, your grandparents were wiped out. And
right.
I'm like, and then they are the ones bringing up Hitler again. And now, like you said, Hitler was right. I'm like, you want me not to be worried about the Holocaust when you're actively telling me that Hitler should have finished the job? Which is it? Do you want me not to be scared of the Holocaust? Or do you want people like Hitler to finish the job? Because you're telling me both at the same time. So, of course, I'm going to be a little bit worried you want to genocide me when you are actively telling me.
Oh, I think 100%. If you look at what Twitter is, I think Jews should be on alert 100%. This is the shit I can't stand. 4 hours ago, Jake Shields retweeted somebody that posted a picture of these underground tunnels. And it blows me away, the construction, right? Everybody says that the tunnels were built 6 months ago. If you know anything about construction, especially underground, it's going to take a hell of a lot longer than 6 fucking months to build what they built and the way it's done. They've got a picture of an upside down high chair. And Jake Shields, this is the irresponsible shit that people put out that triggers people who were locked down during COVID, whose brains have fucking warped to believing anything they're said, right? And this is how they say it to get away with it. The tunnels under the synagogue had high chairs and stained mattresses. Maybe they were running a daycare. So you know he's being condescending. Mm-hmm. You know he's planting a seed. He's got... This is where I'm a free speech absolutist, but the amount of irresponsibility that people put out. I don't know what the punishment should be if like, again, John Doe sees this and he goes over there just like at the James Elefante's Comet Ping Pong, and some guy goes over there with a gun to start shooting at the synagogue the same way that guy did. I think Jake Shields, Morgan Ariel, Stu Peters 100% need to be held criminal responsible because they are spreading this shit. Liz Crokin is doing it. She's being a little bit more fair. I'll give her that. It blows me away. These people are putting out this irresponsible shit and alluding to child sex trafficking and pedophilia by the Jews. And it's fucking vile.
You know what the great irony here is? When Jake Shields saw the Hamas terror tunnels, he found any way to rationalize it. Oh, no, those are fake. Oh, no, the weapons you see there were put there by Israel. Oh, no, they weren't actually using it to take hostages. Even when he saw video evidence, everything, he will rationalize against it. But the second he sees any tunnel built by some random group of Jews in New York, it's a sex trafficking ring, despite there being no evidence of the case. So, again, it just shows it's confirmation bias. All he needs to believe that Jews are pedophiles is a tunnel built by random Jews in New York. All he needs to believe that Hamas is good, despite the face of videos, of evidence, he still believes that the hospital was attacked by Israel. Despite numerous international investigations, despite the hospital still being there and the parking lot being what's hit, despite the crater size not being the size of what Israeli artillery would cause, despite Hamas openly admitting on tape recordings that it was Islamic Jihad, despite countless, again, independent reports, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they reduced the death toll. He will still believe what he wants to believe. It doesn't. So facts and evidence don't matter. Jake Shields wants to believe Jews are pedophiles. He wants to spread that narrative. So all he needs is one kernel of anything to believe it. And then he will preach that to his followers who are looking for the same kernel. So
this is a problem. This is legitimately a problem. There's a bunch of Jake Shieldses out there. I don't know.
I'll tell you this. The school I went to when I was a kid, the Jewish school, was shot at. The other Jewish school in my neighborhood was shot at recently. The school my niece and nephews go to had a bomb threat against it, had to be evacuated. This is in Canada. These are Jewish schools in Canada. This is just in my sphere of personal life. Now, the synagogue I went to had a bomb threat and there was a Molotov cocktail thrown at it. These are just 2 places in Canada. Now, nobody's talking about how pervasive this actually is. This is happening across the United States. This is happening across Europe. there are no Jews, sadly, anymore in Arab countries. There's very few. 99.9% had to escape. But if you were a Jew living in those countries, they're burning down the synagogues that were left, the ancient synagogues in Tunisia and all these different countries. They're destroying anything that relates to Jewish history. This is not an isolated thing, is my point. And people like Jake Shields just fuel the fire. But Jake Shields is not unique in this. There is a deep-seated hatred. It's coming from both sides. And again, for both similar but completely different reasons. Identity politics. Identity politics, in my opinion, is evil. I will always stand by that. Intersectionality and identity politics and all these games that you see being played are evil. They're a destruction of any value based on the human being. They're counter-religious arguments. They're arguments that are intended to create fear, create a state of panic, psychogenic epidemics. I talk about this a lot. And so you want to see the hatred against Jews nowadays is very much what you would have seen during the Salem witch trials, which is by definition a psychogenic epidemic. The accusation that you're a Zionist means that you are akin to Nazi Germany, that you are an evil person who molests children, blood libels, all these things that have historically been used against Jews, and that it's okay for people to attack you. It's okay.
I want to go back
to
massacre
the Jews in Israel.
My mind hurts on that one. So a Zionist believes that Jews have a fundamental right to the land, or they have the land in Israel.
A Jewish
correct?
state.
A Jewish state. Yes. Okay. So, but if I'm a Zionist, I also support Hitler then?
According to
how the fuck does that make any sense whatsoever?
Because they'll say that Israel is oppressing the Palestinians the way, which is again an insane comparison, but it doesn't matter.
Why is this
repeat something enough, like genocide? They'll keep repeating genocide.
Okay, so why is this focused on the Middle East? Because why does the world not take this same amount of vilification and just pure hatred and focus that on the United States and what we did to the Indians? We took their land, right? We wiped them out, right? We committed genocide is what the liberal left likes to say. So why is it the Middle East where this shit is so focused on and not the Western culture who did the same fucking thing? Why?
Because the best way to express your hatred for Western civilization is to attack Israel. It's much harder to attack the United States. People won't listen. You're not going to get a boycott going. You're not going to have. So this is really an attack on Western ideals a lot of the time when it's coming from the left. When it's coming from the right, it's an entirely different thing. So again, there's a breaking point there. So you look at a lot of the leftists, they don't like American values. They don't like capitalism. They do like that the border is open and that people are coming in like crazy. So these are just sadly, again, they don't mind that Jews are being attacked because of the oppressor-oppressed narrative. They believe the United States is equally an oppressor in the world. They try and tear down every institution that is traditionally American. That is what they do. They actively do that. It's why they tear down statues. It's why they attack history. It's why they do anything that they do. So Israel is just perceived as a little United States. It's the America of the Middle East, and it is by definition an oppressor. Did you know that when Israel was first made, Russia was very supportive of Israel? It was hoping that Israel would become a little communist haven in the Middle East. And when they realized that that was not the case, that it was a capitalist country, they abandoned it and they started vilifying it. And so there's just a very similar trend happening here in the United States. But on the right, the reason that people hate Israel is, again, because of this deep-seated belief, things that go back to the protocols of the elders of Zion and all these different historical fallacies, that Jews control the world. And if Jews control the world, then everything that's terrible in your own life, all your failures, all your lack of success is because of the Jews, because they can't explain why Jews win Nobel Prizes at a significantly higher rate than everyone else. They can't explain why Jews will. And by the way, Jordan Peterson has a great analysis of this. If you just look at general IQs of specifically Ashkenazi Jews, their baseline IQ is higher, which results in higher levels of genius, which results in a disproportionate representation in certain fields. That's all. You know what I mean? It's not some complicated thing. And Jews might have that higher level of IQ because of being targeted historically the way they were, and they had to focus more on education and the way they survived.
Yeah, nobody criticizes Asian Chinese kids. If you look,
no,
I'll tell you flat out.
But universities do. Universities penalize them.
I'm going to tell you flat out. If I ever needed open heart surgery, I don't want a white guy. I'm sorry, I don't. I want somebody who has an accent, is from another culture, because they take education 100,000 times more serious than us lazy Americans do. So I'm sorry, but anytime somebody's like, they talk about the disproportionate numbers of X, Y, and Z, it's culture. I know people in India.
It's culture.
India pushes their kids to. I think the way it was explained to me was that their university is 3 years versus our 4 years, and they have their kids go nonstop, right? Because they want and their standards are so much higher. So I don't know why we just have the Western has a lazy culture. So I don't know why that's ever an argument of, oh, the Jews are getting X, Y, and Z. Because people look at military wise, isn't it in Israel every child has to serve in the military?
18, yeah. Men 18 to 21, women 18 to 20.
Okay, so not for nothing, you're creating a standard of people who has a better regimented system and discipline. So that there alone says something about culture. We're just fucking lazy over here in the West.
Not only that, I mean, for all the talks of, systemic racism in the United States being the reason that people don't succeed, Nigerians outperform white people and are higher earners, and so there's a lot of contradictions. There's cultural issues in the United States that exist. Like you said, they're not necessarily driven by race like people like to obsess over. And I know that's a controversial thing to say nowadays. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. It clearly does exist. But to say that the reason you will never succeed in life in America is because of the color of your skin in 2024 is a fallacy.
It's insane. I don't know why people are still saying that. We got about 2 minutes left. I wanted to hear this because I'm literally ignorant. And I don't know what the hell, what this argument is over. And I'm going to tell you flat out, I'm going to start choosing the side of the lesser loud people, the people who aren't spewing hate. Sadly, and I can't make this statement. It seems like people who are pro-Palestine, who are the loudest, refuse to condemn Hamas. That's what it seems. It seems that the people who are from Israel and their support, I don't even know how to word this. I don't know what fucking side to support at all. But they're supporters. The supporters are making me the ones that are making me just fucking want to just walk away from all of them and say fuck you, because both sides seem to be insane. But the anti-Jew is unbelievable, and it's full of hate.
Here's what I'll say: you should be pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli. And that means, unfortunately, getting rid of Hamas no matter what it takes. And then you should want, as I said, self-determination for the Palestinians and self-determination for the Jews in Israel. That should not be a controversial thing to say. It should be okay to believe that we want a better life for Palestinians. We want a better life for Israelis. How do we get there? Who's actively pushing war and who's actively denying peace? Who has turned down every single peace offering since 1948? That's all you have to ask yourself.
Dude,
I'm not saying that Palestinians deserve to suffer. They deserve to have better lives.
Nobody does. I can't fathom how you have one group that actively invaded another on October 7th, but people are vilifying Israel for it.
It's also very sad that they don't know anything about the history and claim they do because they learned it from TikTok videos. And
correct. Number one, how could people wind up connecting you, following you? Because I love you for a lot of stuff that you wind up doing, but tell people where they can wind up following your content, any kind of content you're doing.
Well, all the stuff that we're talking about today is on Ilan_Moalem_official. And then the martial arts stuff, if people love martial arts, is at @inside_fighting on YouTube.
Yeah, that's the inside fighting. Yeah, dangerous martial arts. That's my favorite. All right, in 1 minute, sum it up. What the hell do you think is going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months?
I think it's going to be a chaotic 2024, sadly. And I think that there's going to be a lot more polarization. I like to be an optimist. I hope people stop self-censoring. I think that's an important thing. I think there has to be more dialogue. It's just become impossible. So again, I think leading up to the election, we're just going to see crazy accusations, craziness across the board. But I do have hope that things calm down and that, the will of the American people and that the spirit of the American people will carry on and everything will turn out okay. I do believe that.
I don't fucking know, dude. I think the American people in the last, 3-4 years, they're looking for something. They're looking for something to be outraged over. And anytime, it just, like I said, it blows me away. You just read online, people say Christians, right, who are warriors for Christ, say the Talmud says this, so they're Christians, and then I would like to think that it seems you're pretty well educated, come on, and you instantly debunk what they're claiming, but how many people will actually listen to what's being said and not go, oh, well, you're a lying Jew trying to wind up misleading me. I cannot believe how full of fucking hate people are in these last several years, and I don't know if we have any chance of survival at all. I don't fucking know. That's just where I'm at on this.
I'm gonna party then until we go out.
Dude, I hope the asteroid hits, and I keep saying, you know what, if Putin does want to launch those nukes, I'm 20 minutes from O'Hare Airport. I'm going to sit out front looking east. I'm going to smoke a couple cigars, and that instant flash of nuclear, intensity is going to leave me one hell of a suntan. All right, thanks. I appreciate you hanging out last minute today. I really appreciate you taking time for this.
Thank you, brother.
We'll have to have you back on again. And then you and I got to do another martial arts podcast. Guys, that's your Tuesday show. Make sure if you have any things you want to question, comments, question, suggestion, you can email at rantsofizzo.com or text us the 708-982-0974. You can leave a voice note, a voicemail, text message. You got any opinions? We'll play them on air. Other than that, remember, I don't have the answers for fucking shit. I just can't stand hate. I can't stand hypocrisy. I can't stand Christians who are preaching love, 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 love. And then all of a sudden, well, fuck the Jews. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. So go out there, have a great damn day. Go ahead and help somebody. And if you can't help them, just don't fucking hurt them. Don't be a cunt. And see you guys tomorrow for more of the Rants of Izzo here on Spreely Media.